Well, the $4.1 million that we've got in the announcement is for upgrades to the bus garage, and so that would not be proceeding. It would go into the heated bus shelters for passengers.
But it's already, you've got two programs, you've got two bus garages getting upgraded right now. What are you cutting from the scope to make room for that $4 million?
We can direct you in terms of the specifics, but there's money right now that was budgeted for upgrades to the bus. They would have to wait.
What upgrades?
Pardon me?
What upgrades? You said there's upgrades, so what upgrades are you cutting? And why 4.1? That's a very specific number.
Well, it's one that's right in our budget, and that's why I've identified it.
So wait, that's not the bus shelter on Fort Rouge? That's not the program that's underway in Denver? That's others? Which bus garage are you talking about?
You know what? We can have Transit provide you with more specifics on it.
This is your campaign promise, or what? Don't you know what any details on your campaign promise? This is your promise, right? Why are you sending us to Transit on one of your campaign promises?
Well, right now it's allocated. It's $4.1 million. It's currently allocated in the 2019 capital budget for refurbishment and upgrading of bus garages.
Which line item? Which line
It's in the 2019 budget. Are you asking for the specific page number? Or?
We haven't seen the 2019 budget yet. I mean, with respect, I'm going to review it all this. This is your announcement. I'm confused. Are you talking about the North Main garage, the South garage, some other garage?
We can get you the more details if you'd like, Bartley, but it's $4.1 million that's currently in the 2019. And so what I'd like to see is that money directed, of course, to the heated, to 55 heated shelters over the next 4 years.
I guess just for the specifics though, like how do we know that we can spare that's not an important need for transit?
Well, I think it comes down to choice. I mean, we can make upgrades to the garage that will obviously do a better job to keep the buses warmer at night. I'd rather keep our transit riders warmer during the days and when they're taking transit, and so it's a question of choice. And it is an identifiable item that wouldn't be available to transit for sure, that I'm sure transit would otherwise appreciate, but I think it comes down to priorities, and I'd like to see us focus on the passengers. You know, for far too long, I think transit has done a good job for many decades of focusing on transit. What I think we want to see and we expect to see with the operational review is the focus shift to the rider. And that's what today's announcements are all about. Low-income bus pass, more heated shelters, and accessibility program. They're all centered around the passenger to improve the service, while also positioning for the future demands that we know we're going to need with a growing population.
And for the low-income bus pass, how much would that cost? Where are you getting that money from?
It would come within the overall operating budget of the transit service. That is going to be a key decision for the next council. The research that we've done already, and so I've spoken to other mayors, Mayor Watson in particular, the Mayor of Ottawa. I've had good discussions with him because they've recently introduced it as well, and what they found is that they had an uptick in many people who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to take the transit. So it did help to a much greater extent than they thought with their ridership. But that is going to be a key decision for the future council of whether or not we have one, and then to what extent what is the amount.
Do you have an estimate though? Because the other two promises, you have an estimate of what they cost and how you pay for it.
It's gonna come down to the operational review, because it's something that right now is being costed in the operational review, along with, of course, high frequency networks, which is something that I support. And so that's going to be a decision for council. And the first thing is committing to have it, and that's what I'm doing today.
So you're not saying low-income bus passes will become a reality. You're just saying you would vote to favor.
No, I'm committing today that I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure we have a low-income bus pass. I'm committed to it, and I'm like all my campaign promises. I'm saying what I'm going to be advocating for and what I'm going to be fighting for. And so I absolutely want a low-income bus pass, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we have one.
Mr. Mayor, how warm do you think those heated bus shelters get?
Well, they're a lot warmer than no heated bus shelter, and so I know when you're waiting in the environment that we're in here today, when it's minus 30, not having a heated bus shelter is not as nice as having a heated bus shelter. And so it does depend on what the weather is time of day. I know the one thing that the bus shelters do, and the heated ones in particular, is just they mitigate the full effects of the elements.
You're aware that a lot of them are really just dryers and not heaters. They prevent the shelters from fogging up, right?
Well, they're primarily, of course, they're used to keep people warm. They also do help with the bus shelter, and I think they do both.
I'm telling you that they don't.
Sorry, Bartley, I'm just having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are you aware that they're really only heated to prevent fogging, not necessarily, they're not actually warm per se?
I think they do both, and I think if you ask somebody who's waiting in minus 35-degree weather whether they'd rather be without a shelter or in one that's heated, I'll take the one that's heated.
Yes.
So I think they do both. The reality is they do both.
That was the dichotomy you set up is the question I'm asking.
Sure.
Just take ballpark. How warm do you think they're heated to?
I would suggest they're a lot warmer than they would otherwise be. And as you know, Bartley, if you check the temperature today or in January, it'd probably be pretty different. So
yeah, I'm just saying, do you think they're heated? Let's say on a midwinter day, do you think they're heated to minus 20, minus 15, minus 10, minus 5?
Tell you what,
0? Are they heated above zero, Mr. Mayor?
They are heated. I know.
Are they above zero, Mr. Mayor? Do you know if they're heated above zero?
You're asking me if a heater is warm?
No, I'm asking you, do you think those bus shacks, the ambient temperature inside is above 0 degrees Celsius?
I'll let the engineers give you exact numbers, and I know you've reported on it in the past too, partly in fairness.
Okay.
It depends on how cold it is outside. In January versus September is probably very different. And what I will just say is, I'm sure we can agree that a heated bus shelter is better than no heated bus shelter for riders. And that's what I want to do today, is announce that we can do better.
To know if you're aware that they are actually warm or
I'm telling you that a heated bus shelter is a lot better than no bus shelter in January in Winnipeg, and so this is something that's going to help.